Greetings. I'm Evan Swenson. I'm an author and a book publisher. I'm also a member of Author Masterminds, sponsors of Readers and Writers Book Club. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club's Conversation with an Author live event. You're invited to come along with us as we visit with and become better acquainted with another amazing Author Masterminds author. Today we'll be talking with Author Masterminds Alaska Wilderness Mystery author Robin Barefield. We'll be talking with Robin about how she became a published author, the agony and ecstasy of authorship. We'll also talk with Robin about living in the wilds of Alaska with huge Kodiak brown bears, killer whales, and abundant wildlife. You want to be here to learn more about Robin Barefield and what it takes to become a published author and what it's like to see your years of hard work and a lot of good luck turn into a book that sells at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and everywhere good books are sold. Now let's talk. Let's talk with Robin Barefield. Greeting, Robin. Welcome to Readers and Writers Book Club, sponsored by Author Masterminds.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Wasn't that nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was the killer whale. Holy mackerel. We're going to show some slides a little bit later of some other stuff. But what's interesting is that the killer whale is a lot prettier than the other whale. That we're going to, so it looks friendly.
Yeah. Unless you're a seal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Depends on, well, if I've been in a boat near those killer whales, a little boat, and the boat gets littler as the whales get bigger.
Yes.
So, Robin, it's nice to be here today with you. We also have Valerie Winos, another author mastermind member that's with us today. Hello, Valerie. Say hello so folks can see you. And
hello.
Thanks for being here. And you've got Remington the Beagle with you in the room. Is that right?
Absolutely. Remington Beagle is here.
I'm glad.
And he's behaving.
He tried to find a killer whale once for me, but he kept getting salt water up his nose.
All right. Well, let's get more acquainted with Valerie or with Robin. Let's start out, Robin, with maybe we start with your education.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and it was a great place to grow up. I still have friends and family back there. But every summer, my parents would take me and my brothers on vacations, often to the ocean, and I fell in love with the ocean. And so I decided I wanted to go into marine biology. And there aren't many colleges that offer marine biology in Kansas. So I went 2 years to Kansas State University, and then I transferred to the University of Hawaii, where I got my bachelor's degree in zoology with an emphasis on marine zoology. And then I transferred, and then when I got out of college, it was kind of a bad time for scientists. There weren't many grants available. So I went back to school, graduate school, in a more applied field at the University of Arizona. I went to school for, and got my master's degree in fish and wildlife biology. So I went back to school, graduate school, in a more applied field at the University of Arizona. I went to school for, and got my master's degree in fish and wildlife. So I went back to school, graduate.
What happened to our sound and all of that stuff?
Might have been me. I made a mistake.
Are you still with us, Robin?
I am still here. Yeah.
Oh. Well, we're glad you're here. Keep talking.
Okay. So anyway, I graduated from the University of Arizona with my master's degree in fish and wildlife biology. But when I was in school in Hawaii, I met my husband, and we got married after I got out of graduate school. And I moved with him to our lodge on on his lodge on Kodiak Island. And that lodge was started in 1956 by his parents, and he bought it from them in 1980. So I think the next slide is a view of the lodge.
You want to see this lodge? It makes me, I've never been there, but already I'm homesick.
And
Now, this is where you live?
this is where I live.
Oh my gosh.
A little more snow there right now, but yeah, so we it was mainly a hunting lodge when I first moved there, but we wanted to have a summer season and take people out bear viewing and sport fishing and show them the other animals. So that's where I work in the summer. I go out every day on our boat and work as a naturalist to tell people about the animals and about their biology, and also as a fishing guide. I work as a fishing guide as well.
So this is Robin in her summer office. Is that kind of like, no, winter and summer office?
Right, exactly. Yep. I'm actually, my husband's actually building a new office for me, so I'm very excited about that.
So and you take people out to see the bears?
Right. We take 6 people at a time, no more than 6. So they're small groups, and we take them out bear viewing, and we also go whale watching. There's many other animals, as you'll see as we go along here in our area, and fishing. We do halibut fishing, some salmon fishing. The fishing is not our main focus, but we do it sort of on the side too.
Well, I've been up at Denali, and they take you out in the buses there, and they'll show you, and they'll say, there's a bear out there, and people will say, where? And they say, well, right there, that black spot right there is a big, mean grizzly bear. And everybody runs over there, and they take pictures, and they go home. And I know they put them on a slide on the wall and say, see that black spot right there? That's a grizzly bear. Now,
Exactly.
That's not what you do.
No, the bears that we see, they're not. This is one of our guests taking photos of a bear, and the bears in this area are not habituated to humans, and we go right into where they are fishing and doing their own thing, and we try to be inobtrusive. We try to stay back in the brush, not bother them, and just sit and watch them do what they do. So it's really fun. It's a unique experience. You feel like you've just gone into their house and are watching them for a while. And sometimes, of course, we encounter them, and usually they get scared and run off. But we try not to bother them.
This looks like this is on a stream.
Yes, it's that stream. We have on Kodiak. We have is the whole island is covered by very deep bays that were carved by fjords. And this bay where we live is the deepest bay on the island. And it almost cuts the island in half. And at the head of the bay, there's a huge tide run out. We have 28-foot tides on this side of Kodiak Island. So the salmon gets stuck in the tidal waters in July, and the bears feed on them in salt water, but then they move up the streams at the head of the bays. And the bear that you saw in that photo was up a small stream feeding on salmon. There's a lot of salmon returned to the just about 3 streams up at the head of this bay. They're just packed with fish in the summer. So that's what the bears are feeding on.
And and then you mentioned halibut fishing.
Right. And so I have a little story here about this one. We were bear viewing with this boy, Conrad, and his family. He had an older brother, an older sister, and his parents, and he was getting bored. So I said, I'll take him back to the boat to fish. And we do, the boat's anchored in about 20 feet of water. And in the summer, we do sometimes get halibut in there, especially late in the summer, we'll get big halibut in there feeding on salmon. But this was in July, and I thought, he'll catch a few flounder, maybe he'll catch, a bullhead or something. So I thought it'll be fun for him. So I took him back, and this is what he caught. And
wow.
He and I had quite the struggle. And once I realized how big a fish he had on the line, I took it over and I reeled it in. And the tide, as I mentioned, we have these huge tides, and I had to pick his family and Mike up on the tide, on the high tide. So I needed to get this fish into the boat and hurry and go pick them up. So we were fighting this fish and fighting him. And finally I got him up to the side of the boat. And I said to Conrad, you have to hold the fishing rod while I harpoon the fish. And Conrad looked at me, and in the cutest little voice, he was a very, very quiet child. And he looked at me and he said, I'm a little bit scared. And I said, okay, that's okay. Just hold on. And so I harpooned it and I said, we have to go. We jumped in the boat and went to pick up his family. We must have been 100 yards from shore. And this little boy started screaming, I caught a huge fish. And I know his parents were probably thinking, oh, sure, that's nice. You probably caught a little flounder or something. And I said, no, he really did catch a big fish. So we went back to the boat and his parents looked over the side, saw the fish, and then looked at me like, what were you doing? What were you letting him do? That was Conrad's and my adventure. The next day I had Conrad and his brother and sister on board fishing while the parents went Barefield, and they all wanted to catch a big fish. So, but it was quite an adventure for them.
That fish is 140 pounds?
Yep, it was 140 pounds. Probably
Conrad wasn't 140 pounds.
Conrad was very small. I wasn't 140 pounds either, I'll have you know.
Yeah. Well,
I've got a couple of comments here, guys.
Okay, let's hear it.
Carl Douglas Nelson says, I'm here and glad to be able to enjoy the interview with one of the best authors in Alaska and indeed the country. Fascinating life. And then Stephen Levi says, an office in a lodge? How different.
Well, I was wondering about Carl Douglas. Which one of the three of us was he talking about? Clarify that, Carl. Valerie, have you seen 170-pound anything in Kansas?
In Michigan or in Alaska? We go halibut fishing every time we go to Alaska, and we've never caught one anywhere near that size.
Yeah.
Well, we have to go to Muncie's Bear Camp to get our.
I didn't want to catch one that size with Conrad, I assure you, but we did.
You should have told Conrad, that's just the bait. You wait till we go after the big ones.
I always say when a child catches a fish that big, then it spoils them for fishing for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I've experienced that with some of my children. Yeah. Well, Robin, you live in a absolutely gorgeous place. Tell us about the place that you live.
Well, this is the head of the bay where we go bear viewing, and it is beautiful. And Kodiak, it rains a lot there. So this is on a nice day, although last summer they were all nice days, but it's beautiful. And it's kind of funny when I sent my first book to you, Evan, and you automatically tagged me as an Alaska wilderness mystery author. And I never had really thought about that. I set my mysteries in the place I know, and I've lived in the Kodiak wilderness for 35 years. So I just, that's what I know. I wouldn't be able to set my books in a city or even a big town. So I had never thought of myself as a wilderness writer, but I guess you write what you know, and that's what I know.
You know a lot about the wilderness. I know from your background. You are a marine biologist. Is that right, Robin?
Fish and wildlife biologist, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And but what's that have to do with bears then?
Well, on Kodiak Island, there's 3,500 brown bears, and
really,
archipelago, yes, there's a huge number of bears, and so I enjoy taking people out and talking about the bears and the other wildlife, and I have lots of questions. So that's kind of how I use my education. I'm also writing a book on the wildlife of Kodiak Island. And it's just fun watching wildlife in their natural habitat, and you get rare opportunities like that. The sow and cub were really cute. That was a cub of the year, a little guy. So it's fun to watch them and to see how nature works.
Now, how big of a telephoto lens were you using this one.
My husband
Maybe,
that not probably wasn't that I mean he has a pretty nice telephoto lens, but I'm sure that bear was just across the stream from him, and this is a big old boar. And I don't know if you can tell how big he looks from the photo, but you can tell he's old by his white claws. Often I should say, big old bears have white, almost ivory colored claws, and his are very white, and he does not look happy to see us there, but he's real scraggly looking. This is a July or early August bear. He hasn't grown in his winter coat yet.
those claws, Robin, how, I want to get a perspective. Well, first I will say this. I have been on Kodiak, and I have been this close to the Kodiak bears, big ones. And so the hair on the back of my neck, when I see this picture, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, those claws tell us about how long those claws are. They're more than a quarter of an inch.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I don't know. Probably about 3 inches.
Yeah. About the size of your finger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So those claws are like this.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And big old bears like that, Mike, my husband, is warier of them. They are not going to play around with you and do something like a false charge. They're probably not going to do anything, but you give them plenty of room, just plenty of space.
Yeah, it's their place.
Yes, it's their.
Yeah, yeah. But isn't it fascinating to be there in their place?
Oh, there's nothing like it. It's fantastic.
And of course,
I have
you have
another comment from Carl Douglas, by the way, you guys.
Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, he's covered all the bases now. This is a real diplomat. Oh, all right, he says, 2 of the best authors. I do have a question for Robin. How did a nice Midwest girl like you decide to become an ichthyologist, to write about murder and mayhem instead of about puppies and kittens? Incidentally, a little about puppies and kittens go a long ways. There's never enough murder, it seems.
So he still didn't answer the question, did he? It's the 2. So which one of you was not included?
Well, because I'm from Michigan. I think that maybe the puppies and kittens thing was.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Not
Yeah.
sure.
I think Remington Beetle should solve a murder. Then we'd have it all covered.
Yeah, that's right. So, well, thanks, Carl, for having fun with us anyway. He is a diplomat. I've known Carl for a lot longer than I've known you two. And so I know who he's talking about. He's not talking about me. You're the 2 authors he's talking about, no question. There's more than bears on Kodiak.
Yes. This guy is a Sitka black-tailed deer, and he hangs around in our yard. We don't feed the wild animals. We don't believe in doing that. But this guy, his mother brought her 2 fawns into our yard. I think probably the day they were born or the day after. And this doe, she has done this over several years. And so this guy kind of grew up in our yard, and he'll let you pet him. He's just very, very friendly. As a matter of fact, it worries me sometimes. I want to paint him bright orange, so he stays away from hunters. But we don't have many hunters in our area that deer hunt. It's just, the deer, their biggest problem is winter kill if it gets too cold and snowy. So I'm a little worried. This has been a brutal winter, and I'm sure we'll lose some deer this winter. But he's very, very calm, very nice deer. He'll just look up and look at you when you walk outside and then go back to eating grass. He's couldn't be bothered.
Well, Robin, I need to ask you as a biologist, I have a question for you then. These are Sitka black-tailed deer, and they're a pretty big deer, but their antlers are not near as large as black-tailed other places. Why is that?
Well, they're separate subspecies. The Sitka blacktail are different from like Columbia blacktail, different species completely. As a matter of fact, they're more closely related to mule deer than anything. But they are different. And on Kodiak, they do grow fairly large, but they're still a small species of deer. But no, that's I mean that his antlers aren't huge. He's probably only 3 years old, but they will get wider than that and often have 4 point. So he's still kind of small, but their antlers do not get huge. No, they're not a huge antler deer.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just the subspecies, nothing to do with the grass on Kodiak is not as nutritious as other places.
No. As a matter of fact, Sitka blacktail grow much bigger on Kodiak than they do everywhere else.
Oh, really?
Everything on Kodiak. There's so much food on Kodiak that everything thrives. And so people come to Kodiak that want to get like the Grand Slam of deer, all the deer, big deer hunters. They come to Kodiak just for the Sitka blacktail because they are so large. So even though they look small, they're large for the species.
Uh-huh. Let's answer a question for Steve Levi. Here's Robin in her summer office. Steve, is that right? This is you at work?
That's right. I'm holding the boat in so the guests can climb from the small boat into the big boat. That's me in my office.
Yeah.
I probably just put down my computer when I saw the boat coming, and I had been writing up to that time. So that is my summer office.
So there you go, Steve. We wasn't too far off. Robin in her summer office. Valerie, would you like to trade places with Robin in her summer office?
I would love to go see Robin's summer office. In fact, that's on my bucket list.
Valerie, I'd love to have you come.
I am a huge Robin Barefield fan, and my daughters are all Robin Barefield fans, and we love her books and her podcast and everything about her. So we might come as a group of girls and stay at Muncie's.
Sounds fun.
So what's this guy, Robin?
That's a harbor seal. He's eating the salmon. The poor salmon don't stand a chance as they try to return to the streams they are born in to spawn. Everything eats them. Sea lions, seals, bears, eagles, humans. And so this is a harbor seal at the mouthful of, it looks like a pretty good salmon. I guess it's a silver salmon. It almost looks like a red salmon, but I think it's probably a silver salmon. He's in front of a silver salmon stream, so I assume, but he's just having a good time.
I have been fishing for salmon often in my life, and I have caught many salmon that the guide has said, "Oh, that just escaped a seal because it's got marks on it." Was the guide just pulling my leg, Robin? Or
no, we catch them oftentimes that you can tell that a seal, it's been caught by a seal and gotten away somehow, but or they have net marks on them or something. Sometimes they're lucky, and then I feel bad. They got away from the seal and then we caught them.
Yeah, you didn't feel too bad about it though. No. So you have other sea life out there as well. What's this guy?
That's a sea otter. They don't eat the salmon, they eat shellfish, but we have lots and lots of sea otters. They probably 10 years ago, if we saw a sea otter, it was a big deal. Now there's sea otters everywhere. So they have really made a comeback, but they're out in front of our lodge and all over the place in the bay.
Now the sea otter, is the sea otter the guy that the Russians came and they practically decimated it? Or
yes, the otters have the thickest fur of any animal, so they were very sought after. And the Russians almost wiped them out, and they have, but they've made a pretty good comeback now.
Now they are protected now, are they not?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So this is a guy that he doesn't eat salmon though, or he does?
No, they rarely eat fish. They mostly eat shellfish, clams, crab, mussels. They'll eat starfish. if they do catch a fish, in some areas where there's not a lot of shellfish, they will eat a fish, but they don't catch it with their mouths like most sea mammals. They actually catch the fish with their front forepaws. So you can imagine that's not the easiest thing to do. So they don't often eat fish.
Listen,
I've tried to catch a fish with my forepaws and it doesn't work very good. Valerie, you had a comment.
yeah, Stephen Levi has a question. He says, have you ever had a close call with a bear and a hunter?
Never a bear in a hunt. Well, I suppose some over the years, but the only really close call, the scariest thing that's ever happened to us with a bear, and if this was years and years ago, it was during a summer trip, and we were returning to our boat after a day of bear viewing. We didn't even see these bears. They were in the woods, and it was an old sow, and she had cubs, but the biologist thought she probably, didn't have all of her faculties and her senses weren't as good. And she heard us and came running out of the woods, and Mike yelled at her, and she started frothing at the mouth. And so he shot a shot near her to scare her. And she just didn't even hesitate. She just ran right for him, and he had to shoot her. And that was really sad. It happened a long time ago, and Mike was so upsetting. We almost quit our bear viewing trips, but it was the exception to the rule. They just, in all the many encounters over the years we've had, that was the only bad one. So I guess it happens to everyone after a long enough period of time. But anyway, it was very sad.
Robin, I know that story. How come I know that? Where have you written that or talked about it?
I wrote about it in the Readers and Writers. I think I wrote about it in the Readers and Writers Book Club, or maybe I told it about it on my webinar. It might have been on my webinar.
Yeah, because I know that story, and I've been close to bears, and they're terrifying if they look at you and like that you're in the food chain and not just a tourist.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for a young bear to kind of bluff charge you. He's kind of like a teenager, kind of testing his boundaries. And that is a whole different story. But when one is serious and you see these telltale signs of frothing at the mouth and stomping their feet from side to side, it's very scary, yes.
Yeah, it sure is. Robin, do you know what is the most photographed bird?
Well, it's between the eagle and the puffin. It's probably the eagle, though. Yeah, that's a horned puffin. We have two species of puffins, horned and tufted, and they are so much fun to watch. Just they can barely fly, so you can see him running on the water to get up his speed to take off. Usually, they take off for about 5 feet and then they crash back in the water. They're very funny.
But people love to take pictures of the puffins. They're so colorful.
Yeah, they're very colorful.
Yeah. Someone told me, that someone is an expert in everything, And so someone told me that the puffin was the most photographed bird in Alaska.
Well, it very well could be.
Yeah. So you have a number of puffins out there in your place? Do you see them all the time?
We see in the summer, yes. If we want to see a puffin, it's not a problem. We don't have huge nesting colonies, but we have several places where a few nest, and so we always see puffins. We have both tufted and horned.
They nest on the cliffs, do they not?
Right. They dig burrows back in the cliffs and burrows.
They got to do a lot of work to fly up to get there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty poor flyers. They didn't learn, yeah. Okay, this guy. This is the one. This is the friendly whale.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's our killer whale orca. We don't see them that often. We see them a few times a summer, but the last 2 summers, we've seen them more often. And this girl, I should say, it's not a guy, was right out in front of our lodge. So my husband, she was just breaching, and my husband got a photo of her, a good photo of her.
So you're sitting there watching, having lunch.
Yep.
And you look up and say, Oh, look, Mike, there's a whale out there. Oh, yeah, there is another whale. And then you go on eating and you don't get excited about that at all?
It's sometimes, especially if we have fin whales in the area, you can hear them blowing all the time. It's just amazing. But that those whales, that pod was there as a group of guests left and another group arrived. So they arrived with whales all around them. So yeah, they were spoiled right off the bat.
So you got good tips that day from two groups because you showed them the show. So
We have another question, not about a whale, but about a bear. How big is the biggest bear you have seen, and what would constitute a record?
Oh, well, I think the biggest bear is a really huge bear would be 1,200 pounds if you want to go by pound weight. I can't, I'm really bad at judging them, but I'd say we've seen a huge maximum size bears, 1,000 pounds or more. Occasionally, I mean, they're not super common, but we see them once in a while.
Wow, 1,200 pounds a bear. I thought they were big, but I didn't know they're that big. So if a bear was standing on its hind legs, big bear like that, looking at you, Robin, would you be looking at the eyeball to eyeball, or armpit to eyeball, or belly button to eyeball? What would it be?
Somewhere between armpit and belly, probably. But luckily, they only stand on their hind legs to figure out what they're looking at. Their eyesight's about like ours, but they're a little bit nearsighted, so they stand on their hind legs to get a better look at things. So they aren't the what you used to read about in the books. They're not getting ready to attack you when they do that. They're just trying to see what you are. Usually,
they're just looking you over.
They're just looking you over, and usually standing on their hind legs is followed by them running the other direction. So.
Oh. So we was looking at the killer whale. Okay, now this is not a killer whale.
No, this is a humpback whale, and we have a few of those too in our area. Most of the whales that we see are fin whales, and they are, I don't have a photo of a fin whale, but they are the second largest of all the whales. They don't breach very often. They're just too big, but they are really impressive. And sometimes they'll come up to our boat and play with us. We'll just stop in the water and they'll circle the boat. You can see them watching you. They'll just look up at you and they're huge. So it really gets your attention in a hurry when they do that. It's quite a thrill.
More huge than this guy.
But yes, much more. Yeah.
So this guy looks like he needs a shave or something.
He's got barnacles on him. They get barnacles on him. Yeah, that'd be irritating, wouldn't it? Barnacles growing.
But the killer whale didn't have that. I didn't notice.
No, they don't have it. For one thing, their skin is very smooth, so there's nothing for a barnacle really to grab a hold of and grow on, and they move so fast. Killer whales you see them one place and then they're gone. I mean, they're much faster. Whereas humpbacks and fin whales will stay in the same area for weeks and weeks and weeks.
So this guy is a resident, or is he migratory?
I would say he's migratory. Not all humpbacks migrate. Younger humpbacks don't migrate if they're not yet mating, and they'll stay around all winter. We see humpbacks all winter, but most migrate to Hawaii or.
I was going to say he was the first Alaskan that went to Hawaii for the winter. Is that?
Yeah.
Was the whales. Okay, Robin, I got to show you this. This is for Steve Levi. This is another day of Robin in her summer office. Is that right? This is you working or having fun?
Nope, that's me working. And I sometimes when it's really windy, if all I'm doing for the day is dropping off bear viewers, I spend all day long in this little boat, and I take along if it's raining, I usually don't take my computer, but I take a notepad and a pen, and I sit and write sometimes under a tarp. So That is my another one of my authors.
Yeah. Well, we saw that beautiful picture earlier of sunshine on Kodiak, and now we see this picture and the other earlier one. You're out barehanded, but you got a coat on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's chilly. It's probably the average temperature in the summer on Kodiak is in the 60s, and when you're out in a boat, especially if it's windy or raining, it gets cold. So I have lots of layers on there, and you can always take them off, but that top coat is a really good windbreak, and so I often wear it to go out and pick people up.
Well, let me ask you, Robin. I have a coat that I wear summer and winter. I mean, it's the same one I put on as a down jacket, North Face down jacket, and I wear that. And when I go fishing in Kodiak and Western Alaska, that's my coat, and I put it on to go fishing. Is that the way it is in Kodiak? You wear your same coat?
I do. I just add more layers underneath it in the winter.
Yeah, put another layer underneath if it gets real cold.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the area in which you live, and also, Robin, how that fits in to the wilderness murder mystery writer.
Okay. Well, this is this is up where we see the bears again, and I try to include wildlife in my books. There's, like I said, there's 3,500 bears on Kodiak, so every book you'll see a bear somewhere. I try to portray them as realistically as possible. And since my background is in science, one of my main characters, Jane, is a fisheries biologist. And so Jane solves real problems, real environmental or she works on, I should say, real environmental and science problems in Alaska. My first book, Murder Over Kodiak, she was working on trying to come up with a field test for paralytic shellfish poisoning. And as I'm sure you know, Evan, paralytic shellfish poisoning is a real problem in Alaska. The clams, the mussels have a toxin in them, and they can be toxic. So anyway, that's what she was doing. And then in the second book, The Fisherman's Daughter, she switched to examining the plankton that whales eat, because in the last few years in Alaska, there's been many dead whales found, and many of them were around Kodiak Island, and they're trying to figure out why the whales were dying. And one of the reasons they thought they might be dying is because the warmer ocean waters was spawning toxic blooms of algae, and the whales were ingesting them. So that's what Jane has been working on in my last two books. So I try to take the wilderness and fit it into my books, and what characters would really do in this environment if they had the jobs they had. And I hope to make it as realistic as possible.
Okay, Robin, this is a test then.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you're the Alaska murder mystery author, and you have the wilderness in all of your books. So I'm going to show you a picture of Kodiak, Alaska, and you tell us really quick how you would use this picture in a book.
Well, I would definitely have my something happening in the woods there. It's such a nice day. Well, it's not a real nice day, I guess, but it's such a nice. This is a beautiful, beautiful spot. It would be a great place to put my characters. Actually, I'll have to do that next time. But I'd probably have someone chasing someone else through this area, because as you get upstream, there's a rapids, and it's very thick and brushy. So it would be a good place to put the characters towards the end of the book when they are trying to put one in peril. It would be great for that.
So how deep's that water up there by that cliff on the left side?
It's not very deep. It's fairly shallow water, but it's probably, it might be 10 feet deep. You know, it's
so someone could get up on top there, murder somebody, tie a rock around them, throw them off the cliff, and head down the water. Nobody knows about it.
Yeah, I just throw them right in and let the current take them.
Sure. Yeah. There you go. Valerie, you got something, I think.
No, I was just upset over you and Robin throwing people off the cliff.
Oh, well, you got to think like a murder writer, you know. I'm trying to set Robin up for her next book.
Stephen Levi does say, have you ever thought about using World War II on Kodiak Island as a backdrop?
I've never thought about that, Steve, but that's a good idea. There's a lot of gun emplacements and things like that, especially around the town of Kodiak. Might be interesting, and Steve would think of that because he's a historian.
Yeah, there is a lot of history there in Kodiak.
There. Mhm. Yeah, a lot of history before before first contact too. In our bay where we live, archaeologists and anthropologists figure that 3,000 people probably lived in that area, and so it's a really interesting history.
You can sure see why they had lived there. Plenty to eat.
Protected.
Yeah. One of the first books that we published years ago, Robin, you may be familiar with, is the history of cattle ranching on Kodiak Island.
Okay. Yeah.
And it went back to the Russians, and this huge, big bull with long horns. It make the Texas Longhorn look small. There was a Russian bull that they brought over. Yeah. Well, you do live in a beautiful, beautiful place, Robin. So how about this? Is this just a regular summer sunset at Kodiak?
No, that's actually a November sunrise, and no, that's not
Really?
that is not regular in November. It was spectacular. So yeah, Kodiak, I mean, I've definitely so far in this I've shown you Kodiak at its best, but it's not always perfect. We get huge storms off the North Pacific, and it can be brutally windy, and that sort of thing plays into my books too, because the day can look like this in the morning, and by afternoon it could be blowing 40, and we'd have huge waves and surf rolling in there. So it really does. It really can be a tough place to live.
So this that they say red in the morning, sailors take warning. That works at Kodiak?
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's a definite. That's one of those true sayings.
So I know that you're pretty isolated there
Mhm.
where you are.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of ways to get there. You can take a boat or you can fly. Now, uh, which would you rather do, Robin?
Well,
Take a
I,
boat or fly?
if I have to go all the way to town, I'd rather fly because it's a 40, and flying can be very scary through these mountains, but it's 45-minute plane ride compared to a 10 to 12-hour boat ride. And the boat ride we have to go out around the island through a stretch of water called Shelikof Strait, which is considered one of the most treacherous stretches of water anywhere. So we pick our weather, but still you can get out there, and it takes so long to get through it that the weather can change. And I've had some harrowing boat rides. So if I have to pick, I'd fly. But the thing is, it's very expensive to go to town by plane, and we have to take our boat into town this spring. And in May, we have to pull it out and have the bottom repainted and a survey done. So I will go to town then, and then I'll come home, and I won't go back to town until late January. I spend almost all of my time out at our lodge, and that's where I live. So it is, it's a hardship. Not for everyone, definitely. I enjoy it, but you can't go out to dinner, you can't go to a movie, you can't go to the grocery store. So just kind of have to find stuff to do where you are. But I'm pretty good at that, so I don't mind it too much. But it is not an easy existence. It's definitely has its drawbacks.
Robin, I want to back up there. You said how many hour boat ride from your lodge to Kodiak?
10 to 12 hours. Yeah,
Really?
it's a very
I had
long.
no idea. And,
So we
and,
don't
and
just jump in the boat and go to town.
so So you fly, and that's how long?
The flight is 45 minutes. It's
45 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
because you can fly if the weather's good. I mean, it's longer if it's bad, but you can fly usually if it's nice, like over the spine of the island, and it's a pretty straight shot. But to go to town, you have to go out the bay and then way around the outside to get to town by boat.
Now, when you fly, you use a float plane. You don't have an airstrip there, do you? No.
We use split planes, yeah.
So what kind of a airplane do you usually fly in then?
We fly usually in a Beaver or a 206. Those are usually the things we fly in. Most often a Beaver.
And that's a de Havilland Beaver.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you know how old those are, Robin?
They're very old. They were built like, I think in the 40s.
Yeah, late 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin,
And
you may fly in an old plane, but you have a new fan because Kim Reynolds just signed on and she says, I absolutely love reading your books. You are one of my new favorite authors, and I have recommended your books to everyone I know.
Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that nice? That was worth the visit.
That really
Yeah.
was.
Kim,
Maybe-
thank you. Yeah, that is. Now, we've seen some pretty places on Kodiak, sunsets or sunrises. I thought it was a sunset, but sunrise and beautiful bays. Life is not always really easy there, is it, Robin?
No, I thought I'd better be honest and show you some of the downside. This is winter, and when this happens, this is a stream where we get our water. And when this happens, of course, by this time, all the water pipes, they're buried, but by this time they've all frozen. So we're getting no running water in our house. And we have to chop through the ice and haul water by buckets. And this particular winter, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, it was extremely cold. I know it was cold up in Anchorage too. And to get water, the only place we could get water, the stream was almost completely frozen all the way through. So we had to set a bucket at the end of the stream, and there was just a little trickle coming out. And it would take an hour to fill a bucket, and then we could take it in. So when that happens, you get very careful about using water. You think twice about it, and you don't wash your clothes. So it's not fun. When life is all about getting water, it's no longer much fun. So this is the downside. Whoops, I lost you there. I can't hear you.
Oh, if I take me off mute, I could talk. Thank you, Robin. I had to clear my throat, so I didn't do that in your ear, but then I didn't come back on. Sorry about that. So you never washed your clothes in the winter?
Well, no. Oh, I mean, we did, but it would be very seldom. And it would, it takes about 15 buckets of water so to run a washing machine. So we did, but not often. You get just luckily you have enough clothes just to keep changing them, and then when you get the water back, you have a huge laundry.
So you load the boat up in the spring and go to the laundromat in Kodiak with your laundry? No?
No, eventually the water comes back, or if it gets warm enough, usually above 20 degrees, we can run a little pump from the stream over, and then we can do laundry and everything else. But it's not fun whenever it's that frozen.
So Kodiak really is Alaska. It is the furthest northern island in the Hawaii chain. but you have winter.
We do, and ice. This is salt water, but we get ice on it sometimes several inches thick, and ice is very treacherous because it cuts through lines, it carries off boats, it cuts the lines to our dock and tries to carry it away. And so this is my husband out breaking up ice and trying to keep it from breaking those lines on the boats. And you always have to work. Winter is a lot of work, which is, we've been gone now for about 7 weeks. So we've had a caretaker there, and he sounds anxious to leave because it's been a tough winter. So I know he's been doing all these things, and it's hard work.
Kim Reynolds wants to know, Robin, is that where you get your murder ideas from? Out waiting and trying to get water with dirty clothes?
Yes. I can come up with many murder ideas at that point.
Well, you know, it's been my fantasy, Robin, to go to a lodge like yours and then just stay there for a year, see all the seasons, be the caretaker for the winter. But you just discouraged me.
You know, it really depends on the winter. Last winter, it was beautiful. I thought, why do we even leave here? But then this winter, I said, oh, yeah, now I remember why.
Yeah. You did. There was no question about it this year.
No.
No, it's been cold. It's been winter. It's been Alaska. It's been nice.
It's been good because it's the way it should be.
Now you have a lot of visitors that come to your lodge. Some of them come there to pay, to play, and others just come there.
Yeah.
Visitor, was this one of your guests?
No, he was uninvited. We have, as I said, there's 3,500 bears in the Kodiak archipelago, and we don't have much trouble with bears. We keep things clean, but in the fall we have some game meat, and we hang it for a few days before we process it. And this guy found it, and I just love this photo because he's looking at us like, "What? No, no, I'm just hanging out, just doing nothing." But he was taking the meat out of the shed and taking it up that little bluff behind him and stockpiling it. So we took the rest of the meat out of the shed, and once he'd eaten his fill, he went on his way because there was nothing else to eat. So he really wasn't a problem. But I just love this photo because he looks so guilty.
Yeah. Robin, he wasn't a problem, and he stole your winter supply of meat?
No, he just stole a little bit. He didn't take that much.
Oh, okay. But do you have a lot of problems with bears out there?
We don't. We really do. You know, we'll see them. Sometimes we put up game cameras, and you're surprised how many bears come and go right past our place, but you can't see them because of the thick brush. But they usually make a little detour around us, and sometimes we'll see them on the beach there. But we don't live by any salmon streams or anything that really attracts the bears. So they have. There's nothing to bring them there. And as I said, we keep things clean. So that's the smell of humans outweighs the smell of food or anything. So
you keep everything clean except the clothes, you said.
Yeah.
Robin, let's talk about your books and what you're doing and some of those other things.
Okay, well, these are my books, and except for the first one, they all take place completely on Kodiak Island. And I have my latest is Garlic Bones. I just released in September, so I am working on a new one now. And I have some of the same characters in all the books, but you don't have to read them in order. It's not a trilogy or anything like that. So
they're a standalone. You read,
right?
Okay, so you say you have the same characters. Mm-hmm. You can only murder them once, well, Robin.
Not the good guys are all the same characters. Yeah.
Oh, the live ones are all the same characters. The dead ones.
Yes, I don't murder people over and over again.
So I like the way that this slide that you sent me. I love this slide. That you got it. Mystery in the outdoors.
Okay, I don't know if I'm seeing the right thing here, but
I wonder what happened here. It says that I'm showing it and I don't, so I'm just going to stop it and then I'll try it again. So it says here that I got this picture and you should be seeing it.
Yeah, got it now.
Okay.
And yes, in addition to my novels, I write a free monthly newsletter on true murder and mystery in Alaska. And anyone can sign up for it. It's free. And I also have a podcast, Murder and Mystery in the Last Frontier. And it's, of course, is free too, that I do. Same stories. And I do them in a podcast format as well. So that's been fun. It's been a new thing for me to try. And it's, I've really enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's fun to learn how to do something new. So it's been very enjoyable.
Robin, I would like to ask you to do a favor. Would you go, when we sign off here, and post on the Readers and Writers Book Group, Readers and Writers Book Club group on Facebook, the link to your signing up for your newsletter?
Oh, sure.
I get your newsletter and I look forward to it. And when I get it, everything in my office stops until I read that newsletter. It's so fascinating. The things that you put in there, some of these guys and that are real bad guys, I've known of them and been pretty close to some of them.
Yeah.
And so then when you tell me all about this stuff, I start looking over my shoulder to some of my neighbors, because they may be one of those guys. So if you post that link, and
yes,
then
I'd be happy to.
okay, and then also, Robin, if you would post the way that people can subscribe to your newsletter, because that newsletter you have is outstanding.
Sure, I'll put both the newsletter and the podcast link on it. So.
And you can tell us what it is, right?
Your fan wants to know when your book's coming out. She can't wait.
Oh, I'll start working on it. It's a ways yet, but thank you.
Okay. The last thing, Robin, today, this is your last chance, okay?
Uh-oh.
Okay. Give us the commercial.
Well,
30 seconds each book. What's it about?
okay. Murder Over Kodiak is about a plane that explodes over the island in perfect weather. And who was the intended target in the plane? They discover that explosives have been planted on the planes. So the mystery is to find out who the intended target was and then find out the murderer. The Fisherman's Daughter, this young woman in a boat, she's going home and she never arrives home. And then several other, 3 or 4 other women are murdered on Kodiak over the next few months. Well, 1 before her and then 3 after her. And so they're trying to find the murderer. Carlick Bones, Jane, my protagonist, and her friends stumble on some bones after a fire in a remote area near Carlick Lake on Kodiak Island. And they find the bones are not ancient. So they're trying to discover who this person was and why he was there.
Okay, so I look at all the time that you were talking, Robin, I was looking at you. And I think about you and some of our other authors like Marianne Paul that write horrible stuff. And I look at you and I think, this is a fisherman woman from Kodiak Island that just has and then you write all this stuff. How do you do that?
I had one of our guests that come to our lodge said, I never knew you thought about stuff like that. I think he was scared to come back.
So maybe there's a conflict. Have you noticed your business has been going down for the lodge as your notoriety of your books have been coming up? Yeah. Kim's not going to tell anybody about going to your lodge. She loves your murder. Yeah. Oh. Look, Valerie, anything, comments, questions, anything you'd like to say as we end today?
We have one more from our world-renowned author, Mr. Carl Douglas Nilsson. He says, I'm a lifelong reader, writer, hunter, and outdoorsy. It is great to learn from Robin, to feast on a great story, and to be tantalized by the evidence evidence evinced by well-educated and smart characters created by one of the outstanding authors for smart people in the country. Wow, that's high
Wow.
praise, Robin.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
lovely and so well written, Carl. I can tell you're a fantastic author. That's
Yeah.
very nice. Thank you.
You know what's really nice, Robin? When Carl says it, he means it. It was not just an idle thing. That was heartfelt.
That's very nice.
I think that's probably a good place to stop today.
I'll
So
end on a high note.
let's just do that. Robin,
Okay.
it's been nice being here. Valerie, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you,
And
Val.
yeah, and so in the meantime, till we see you again, just keep in touch.